Right now, somewhere in the world, it is midnight. At the exact same moment, another city is waking up. And somewhere else, the day is already ending. We all live on the same planet, but we don't live in the same time. And here's the strange part. This system is not natural. It was created, agreed upon, and imposed on the entire world. Before the modern world, time was simple. Each town followed the sun. When the sun was highest, it was noon. That meant something unusual. Every city had its own time. Sometimes the difference was only minutes, but those minutes mattered because time was local. For centuries, this worked perfectly. Until something changed. The world started moving faster. Railways began connecting cities. Travel that once took days now took hours. And suddenly, local time stopped working. Because nothing lined up anymore. Train schedules became a nightmare. A train leaving one city arrived in another at a different time. Not because of distance, but because clocks were different. Passengers missed trains, systems failed. And for the first time, the world needed a single standard. In 1884, countries gathered for a decision. They needed a starting point, a place where time would begin. They chose a line running through London, the Prime Meridian. When countries gathered in 1884, they weren't just choosing a line, they were choosing who defines time. Because the world needed one reference, one 0 point, one place from which everything else would be measured. At that moment in history, one country stood above the rest, the British Empire. It controlled trade routes, it dominated the seas, and most importantly, over half of the world's ships already used British maps based on Greenwich. For sailors, precision meant survival. They needed accurate longitude, and for that, they needed a fixed reference. Greenwich had already become that reference, not by law, but by usage. The world was already aligned before the decision was made. In 1884, delegates from 25 countries met in Washington. They had one goal: standardize time. The decision was simple: follow what already works. Greenwich was chosen as the prime meridian, 0 degrees longitude, the starting point of the world. From that moment, every time zone, every map, every global system would be measured from a single line in London. Not because it was the center of the earth, but because it was the center of power. If another empire had dominated the seas, the world might measure time from a completely different place. The Earth was divided into 24 time zones, each one representing 1 hour. It was logical, simple, and almost perfect. But not quite, because the real world is never perfectly straight. On paper, time zones look simple: straight lines, clean divisions, perfect symmetry. But the real world looks nothing like that. Because when you look closer, the lines are broken, twisted, and sometimes completely illogical. Some time zones suddenly bend to follow borders. Others stretch across entire countries. And some jump forward or backward for no clear reason. This is where the system stops being geometric and becomes political. China is wide enough to have 5 time zones, but it uses only one, Beijing time. In the west of the country, the sun can rise hours later than the clock suggests, but the time does not change. Because unity is more important than accuracy. Spain is another anomaly. Geographically, it should follow the same time as the UK, but it doesn't. During World War II, Spain aligned its clocks with Germany and never changed back. Today, the entire country lives slightly out of sync with the sun. India faces a similar dilemma. It spans a large distance, but instead of multiple zones, it uses one standard time. A compromise. Simple for administration, but not perfect for daily life. Changing time zones is not just a technical decision. It affects everything. Work schedules, transportation, business hours, national identity. One line on a map can shift millions of lives. And that's why the lines that divide time are not drawn by the Earth. They are drawn by people. Time feels invisible. You don't see it. You don't question it. It's just there. Always moving forward, always consistent. But behind that simplicity is one of the most precise systems ever created. At any given moment, thousands of airplanes are moving through the sky, crossing continents, crossing time zones, each one dependent on exact timing. Not approximate, exact. A difference of seconds can change everything. Financial markets depend on it even more. Trades are executed in milliseconds. Systems in New York, London, Tokyo, all synchronized. Because if time drifts, even slightly, money moves to the wrong place. And in that world, milliseconds mean millions. Every message you send, every video you watch, every click you make is time-stamped, coordinated, ordered in time. Without that order, data arrives in chaos. The internet would stop making sense. To keep everything aligned, the world relies on something even more precise. Atomic time. Clocks so accurate, they would not lose a second in millions of years. Signals sent from satellites, constant corrections, a global effort to keep every system in sync. And if that system fails, even briefly, planes lose coordination, networks desynchronize, markets freeze, or worse. Because without shared time, there is no shared reality. Time is not just a measurement, it is infrastructure, invisible, silent, but absolutely essential. And that's why the modern world doesn't just run on energy or data or machines. It runs on time, perfectly aligned, every second. Without synchronized time, the modern world doesn't collapse slowly. It breaks instantly. Every day, you check the time, without thinking, without questioning. You trust it completely. But what you're really looking at is a system, a global agreement, lines drawn across the planet deciding when your day begins and when it ends. And most of the time, you never notice, because the most powerful systems in the world are the ones you don't see. And this is just one of the invisible systems that quietly runs our world.